Is this working? Let's find out. Yes, it's working. So, this is what I look like when I get out of bed. Pretty scary, huh? It probably explains why I'm single. This also looks like what I look like all day long, which really explains why I'm single. But it is 2:30 in the morning, and I should be sleeping. Even if it's all by myself, I should be sleeping. But I had a thought, and the thought was how I will lay the keels of the two other ocean liners that are in my studio. And I've done the Queen Mary, and I've done the Normandy. And now it's time to do the, actually one has been built already, the Stockholm and the Andrea Doria. And the reason that they are so named is they fit together just like the Stockholm and the Andrea Doria fit together. One has its bow right into the starboard side of the other one. Though in this case, I think it's more the port side. I'm changing the accident. I'm changing the collision just slightly by having it on the opposite side. But they will fit perfectly well in the little cubby hole I have left that these things can go in. So let me show you what these are going to be like. First of all, let me find out if this is recording or not. It is recording. I don't know whether you saw my entire face or just my thinning hair or what this thing is pointed to, because I can't tell. Here's the plan. Sorry. Here's the plan. So the space, alright, here's the plan. Here's my drawing table. Here's the wall back here. There are some existing bookcases here against the wall, and right now there's a clusterfuckage of bookcases built on top of each other. So the Stockholm is already built, and that is a rack that's on wheels that now contains frames. So it has essentially two large shelves, and frames are put in it, and you access it through the narrow side, from the bow side. And there's large frames on the bottom and small frames on the top. And there's a couple of shelves here. And there's also a paper cutter. God damn it. The paper cutter, there's a paper cutter shelf, and then I'm not going to move these boats around to get to the paper cutter. So the paper cutter may have to be put somewhere else, even though it works perfectly right there. Anyway, there's the Stockholm. The Andrea Doria will fit this way, and the bow is in that direction. It'll move this way most of the time. And then I'll replace it this way. This doesn't really need to move out at all, but it could conceivably go somewhere else. I may decide to move this one back, trade places, in which case in an alternate universe, the Andrea Doria ran into the Stockholm. And that's how that will work. But right now it's the Stockholm hitting the broadside of the Andrea Doria. The Andrea Doria itself, the Andrea Doria itself is going to look like this. It's going to have two bookcases back to back. This side faces the interior of the studio. The back side I can't access until I move this out of the way. So the back 3 stories worth of shelving will contain things I don't use very often. I have supplies of watercolor paper. And when was the last time I used watercolor paper? I ask you. Well, it wasn't that long ago, but I don't need reams of it, which I have. And so the front, my cat wants to... You want to sit in my lap, kitty? This is a nightshirt, by the way. Yes, of course, I wear nightshirts because I'm a nut. I don't wear pajamas. When I wear pajamas, the top and the bottom have to match. They can't be this, like, gray flannel with this, you know, striped thing. That's... Children wear those. I wear the old man kind that match. They have, you know, the cotton with, you know, like navy blue cotton with pink, with white piping, you know, around it with a little pocket. Like, what do you need a pocket in pajamas for? I'd like to know. And, or in the wintertime, the, you know, cotton flannel-y looking kind of stuff. But they have to match. They have to match. The top and the bottom have to match. Drawstrings, I prefer to buttons. Just the thing I have. You're learning way too much about my, not only what I look like when I get out of bed. Here's a reminder to what I'm wearing in bed. Okay, so 3 stories tall worth of shelving and 1 story down here. This thing is a beautiful Victorian mirror and walking stick holder, which will go right here. Behind it, I may put a board, a thin piece of veneer or something, a thin piece of plywood to just make it look a little prettier than the back of these shelves, which are brightly colored lime green. Of course, I could paint them, I suppose. But that will go here. So there's, but I've got 20 inches by essentially 20 by 20. This is a square. There's this much room on the end. And I've got a 24-inch shelf that can go there. So this will be a compacted, tall, movable luxury liner that's going to be shoved up against a sharp-bowed icebreaker cargo ship. So the Stockholm is there, the Andrea Doria is here. So that's what it looks like in plan. Now, right presently, I'll just show you what it looks like presently. We're going to walk over there. Kitty, you don't have to go. My cat has been enjoying that. That's a perpetual motion machine. And he looks at it as if he understands that it's impossible. His little brain cells are saying, meow, 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 which translate to, that is not possible. Conservation of energy, blah, blah, blah. So, oh, you can't even begin to comprehend. Is that how tall this thing is going to be? I think that's too tall. I think it's only going to be 2 stories tall. Here's the Stockholm. It's already been built. Frames. This is 22 inches by 30. And it will slide back here where these are. These will come out here and it will extend out about to there. So this will be the little gap will be small but it will be big enough for me as long as I stay on my diet. Here, by the way, is the... Oh, there's me in the mirror. You don't have to look at that. What do I look like, by the way? What have you been... Oh, dear God. Here's the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary starts Queen Mary goes from here to there, and from the floor up to the top. And all of this entire stalagmite, even the vampire kitty, can move gracefully about 6 inches that way until it bumps into something. Behind me, less graceful but functional, is the Normandy. And the Normandy starts here, goes to here, 22 inches, and from here back here, 50 inches. And behind it, which you cannot see, is a filing cabinet. Between these is my Texas School Book Depository. Now this is my divider screen depository. I've got 2 divider screens that have my artwork on them as sort of a catalog. I also have this piece of wood, which fits on top of this table and extends it, so I can actually use this for more than when I do larger projects. The back side of the Queen Mary is over here, and this is where I have my pen repair tools. I have other things that are on wheels. This one is some sort of lab. I've got smaller ships in my harbor here. That's some sort of lab table, very heavy duty, containing large books that I have showing sketches of mine. The other one I have here, this is on top of that thing, and that is a casket gurney, and the card catalog that's on top of it I may use to actually contain the tools for pen repair, and that would be my pen repair table. Though it may turn into another tall thing. No, it won't. It's always going to be short. Right, kitty? The casket gurney thing, though, I like. It's collapsible. I mean, it's foldable, collapsible. It's not collapsible like it will fall down. It can hold a 400-pound dead person in a 500-pound bronze casket after all, so it's not going to fall down because I've got a couple of pens on it. It'll be quite sturdy, but it's foldable, uppable. You can take the casket off and you can push the thing together, and it sort of turns into 1 cubic foot rather than 6 cubic feet of space. So I've seen them advertised as coffee tables. You put a glass top on them, and they're a conversation piece and coffee table. in one. Right, Kitty? My house is full of conversation pieces, as I think you now know. So, I'm going to put this on pause and wait for another 5 hours until people get up so I can start making noise. And I'm going to do quiet things. I should go back to sleep, but no. See you in a bit. I've got measurements to do. I've now put on my street clothes. My working street clothes, except I'm not going to actually go out onto the streets. I'll do that later today, but I need to plug this phone in a different location because I ran out of power on my phone yesterday and lost all sorts of very amusing footage of me trying to build the Normandy. It showed me climbing on ladders, jumping through hoops, doing all sorts of physical acrobatics, lifting big heavy things. But today I don't think you'll see that so much. So I'm going to move to the other room and I'm going to take a little stop to show you my collection of dark matter. Here's my collection of dark matter. That doesn't belong there, that F. These are things that are otherwise dark. This is a salt shaker, I guess. Pewter. Leather glove. Pens. Here's a cigarette lighter. Contraption. I can see why this didn't catch on. Patent number, whatever it is. Can't see it here. Back here there's all sorts of treasures. But as you can see, it's dark. And it's dark. Even if the light hit it, it would still be dark. Right, Kitty? I think he hears the mouse sounds. Okay, stand up. This might become part of the dark matter. Well, this should. Here's some Aboriginal or African something or rather. This belongs in here. This is an inkwell. Oops. Where do you put the ink? Here's where you put the pen, in his ears. The pens go in his ears, and there's what ink would go in there. I have a feeling he's not watertight anymore. Here's another inkwell that's really, really cool. It's this alchemist sort of crucible. And there's this big gear on the side, and you turn the lever and the lid comes up. But the lid is missing its hinge. This is actually made by a really a museum quality. There's another piece, a pair of candlesticks, and something else that you'd have on a table, a clock, I guess. It's a clock and candlesticks made by the same guy, the same company in France, with gears and all sorts of stuff in the Brooklyn Museum in New York. Right, Kitty? Now my coffee cup, which is from the North German Lloyd Company, has reminded me of my shipping duties. I have to start building the Stockholm and the Andrea Doria. See you in a bit. Orca, being a cat, has to be where I am. Well, Orca, being a cat, in his dog-like persona, has to be where I am. And this is his bed, normally. And he's saying, why is it full of so much shit? God damn it. This is what he's thinking. See, here's the blueprints for the Queen Mary. Gravity, Queen Mary, and the Normandy. You know, this camera, this app I'm using to pause my film, doesn't have the ability to adjust for differences of lighting. Here's the Normandy. Here's the Queen Mary. This stalagmite is soon going to be the Andrea Doria, and behind it over there is the Stockholm. I have to take all of these things apart, and I have a feeling that I nailed them together, so this is going to be quite an ordeal. First of all, I have to take everything that's movable off of these shelves, so I can do that. My cat is unimpressed. He just wants to sleep. One of the first things I have to do is to make a space where I can move all that crap that I just showed you onto a surface. So I'm going to show you how how the Normandy will help me do that. Watch. These things would not normally be here. God damn it. Would not normally be here. I would say to myself, self, I need more space. Oh. Ta-da. Ta-fucking-da. Look at that. All sorts of room for me to now move all of the shite over there. Be back in a second. I'm hyperventilating. Here are 2.5 shelves worth of stuff that came off of the shelving that will be used in the Andrea Doria. There's all this paper that will be used for drawing and printing on. Behind it are my books on calligraphy and lettering. Also removed were these trays, more paper. These are watercolor sets and porcelain trays that were from a dental office. that I use for, oh, that's a watercolor one. Anyway, watercolor sets and watercolor mixing tables, mixing trays. I also have some acrylic paints in this box. This is a roll of labels, which I use for, not only for labels, but for wrapping things. Speaking of wrapping, here's a nice roll of beautiful cotton bandaging in case I ever go into the mummification business. I have a similar roll of unstained, undyed stuff too, which might make a lovely wreath for an Egyptologist. I know an Egyptologist who would like a wreath that looked like it was a mummified wreath. So, let me just show you what I've done. The kitty is unimpressed. He's very Sphinx-like right now. Aren't you, kitty? You have to have your legs going out front, though. See? Empty. Now I have to empty this. That's easy. Empty that. That's less easy. And below decks, I have to empty those. Oh dear. The kitty was sleeping, but now I was making noises he didn't like. I know, kitty. Oh, bite me, bite me. Oh, I forgot this. A little dictionary. Let me show you some of the things that I unearthed. Just a few. A mirror. I didn't unearth it, it was behind. You didn't see it. Come on, light. There we go. There's a moire and satin Masonic apron with bedazzlements galore. And here's another, I think this is Knights of Columbus. They were a cheery group, as you can tell, with a little bullion tassel. This had a piece of rope that you'd use to tie around your waist, I presume. I presume they wore other things other than just this, but who knows what those knights did behind their closed doors. I found this, so I can weigh all sorts of things. Whatever this is there. Can't live without that. There's the mirror in the light of day. All sorts of books, including this one. Who is your mate? And this tells you, based on handwriting, who would be suited to you, for you. There you go. There's more, but this is enough for the moment. We're back at in the cat's bedroom here. I know, kitty. Go back to sleep. From the top of the already loaded up Stockholm was this bird cage made of pencils. Oh, come on, light. You can do better than that. Pencils. It's out of focus, but you know what a pencil looks like. A birdhouse made of pencils. And in front of that, we have the cello case adorned with Masonic and Knights of Columbus and some other fraternal organizations. What are these called? Sashes. And as you can see, the fabric is decaying on the Knights of Columbus. And it just tears off. This is like my skin with psoriasis. This is what happens to my body. Too much information. La 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 la. In hoc signo vinces. With this sign we conquer. In hoc signo vinces. This Knights of Columbus thing, this Masonic thing, has a little triangle there and a little cross on the back. This is the back side of the sash. The front side of this, I think. No, that's the front side. This is the front side of the Knights of Columbus. Again, it says in hoc signo vinces. How's that going for you these days? Signo vincesing about. And there's my cat saying, what WTF? That's his tail saying that. I can read his sign language, his body language. WTF and F. Right, kitty? Oh, I know. Bite me, bite me. Oh, 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 kill me. Oh, oh, oh. Below decks, here I have CDs that I don't play anymore. Here there's a bunch of books. Below here are gallons worth of something special. You'll see. Gallons. Or at least quarts. How many quarts in a gallon? I have got many more quarts than gallons. Yeah, you probably figured it out already, right, kitty? Or right, you? Viewer, you? This will become part of the Andrea Doria. This bookshelf will be on the bow of the Andrea Doria. And the books that are in the bookcase right now are books that are about books for the most part, and what else? Books about books mainly. Books about libraries, books about books. Which is why this book was near it. Marks and Books. And this is a catalog of manuscripts that include printed manuscripts or handwritten manuscripts that include editing, or doodling, or notes, or redactation, and Mr. Hoyle's games. Did he just write this? They're all for different reasons. There's Tom Jones. Anyway, I love handwriting. These are little addendums to the printed manuscript, or the printed things. Marginalia, this is called. Look at that marginalia. I want my middle name to be Marginalia. I want it changed from Scott. Scott is kind of a boring name compared to Marginalia. So look at this. This is only one bookshelf thick. So again, the Stockholm the tugboats will push that into here. Now you notice that there's this thing here. This has to be removed, which means I have to take everything down from the clusterfuckage over there. But I'll deal with that later. I have to first get this out of the way. Yeah, WTF. I'm not sure you're going to see what I'm doing, but maybe you will if I aim this correctly. Dough. Luckily, the stalagmite was behind me, otherwise I would have been killed. It's not even 4 in the morning. This is another thing that I took. Oh my god, there's 2 scales here. The exact weight, and on top of that is this one. And this is a scale that weighs, you put one thing you want to buy here, and then you fill up this tray. Let's say you wanted to buy a nail, 100 nails. You put one nail up there, and you put a pile of nails in here, and when it balances, you know that you've got 100, because there's 1 here, and there's 99 here. Let's say you want to buy 10 of something. You put 1 of the things here, and 9 of them here. But you don't want to count 9. That's too hard. You just want to dump things in, and once it hits 0, then you've got it. I like it. Looks sort of like E.T. though. And in my collection I have a number of billiard balls. This one is one of those ones made of cement. It's a 10 ball. And here is another 10 ball. I've got other pieces of that kicking around here somewhere. What's in here? A birdie. Who knows what? 1 shelf to go. The Shadow Knows. That shelf right there. I'll extract it and turn it around and you'll see what's in it. Quart bottles of Schaefer Carter's Waterman ink. That's what's in this one. And then a lot of paper. And what's back here? What's underneath this? All sorts of deliciousness. Oh, come on, Pierre. Stand up. Oh. So I have to get rid of this thing, which means I have to get rid of all this stuff. And hopefully I can take it out. I can pry it out without moving this piece. You think I can do that? You want to bet?